Tree Talking Time is brought to you by Conkey's Outdoors. Get all your hound hunting needs at conkeys.com. Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest fights to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game.
So I've been running dogs for a couple of years at this time. And we went to a place where a man had been breeding potbelly pigs. And back in the 90s, it was a real big thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, they still are today, you know.
No, I remember as a kid that they were like the next big thing.
Yes.
Everyone wanted a potbelly pig for a pet.
Yes, Lord. And so this gentleman, bless his heart, he had the early onset dementia.
Oh.
Alzheimer's. He couldn't remember things and all that, so he wound up leaving his gate open. And now he had a big operation. Well, the only place that was within an hour and a half, 2 hours of driving that had any wild hogs was right there in that general area. So these wild hogs intermingled with these potbelly pigs.
Yep.
And the next thing you know, they had a little explosion there of a bunch of little half and halves. Well, we go up there, and when I first started, I was running the German Hunt Terrier, a Yog Terrier.
Yep.
We were running those. Phenomenal little dogs. They were great for what I used them for. And so we take them up there, and when we turn loose, we're literally in his driveway. The first one we catch under the porch.
Oh, jeez.
Of a mobile home. So it was like the wild, wild west. And we probably had, I'd say, 6 to 8 of these little Yog Terriers running around. And now keep in mind, all these pigs, these are not the 250, 300-pound big wild rank boars.
Yeah.
These are about 60, 75 pounds, maybe 100.
Yeah.
But they were pretty rough. Well, I had a little old pup named Dutch, and he gets on one by himself, and they had pushed an old barn in, pushed it off the side of the hill, and they covered it up. But through the years, the dirt and stuff had settled down in it, so there was holes. Well, that pig hit the hole, and the dog was small enough he hit the hole with the pig. So I can reach down in there with my hand, or I can put my leg down in there. I can put both legs down in there and kind of shimmy. So I'm up to my shoulders now. And I was like, he's probably got an armadillo or something. But no, it was about a 50-pound little boar hog. And I thought I grabbed that dog, and I didn't. Now, keep in mind, like I said, I've been hog hunting a little while, so I should have known a lot better than this. I should have known a lot better. So all the guys, of course, they're standing up above me, cheering me on, telling me how great I am.
Yeah.
And
real easy to do that as you're in the hole and they're not.
Yeah, so I get bit a few times, and it's nothing bad. You know, little pig's he's trying to keep me away from him is all he's doing. And the little dog's got the pig. And so I'm trying to get out of the hole now. So I get my buddies. I was like, "Hey, y'all help me out." So they grab me under each arm, and they're pulling my big old butt out of there, right? And when I do, that pig grabs a hole. I just got the first set of muck boots I'd ever owned. And, man, I was proud of them dudes.
Oh, yeah.
And that little pig grabbed a hold of them muck boots, and it hung on. And when I come out of that hole, that little 60-pound, maybe 60 pounds, whooped the dog, whooped me, and 3 other grown men, and walked off. And just walked off. Everybody, we was looking at each other and said, "We need to go get a bulldog." I said, "No, we don't want to hurt that bulldog. Y'all just let that dude go." Yeah, you know, that was one of the everything kind of went sideways. You know, nothing bad happened. I didn't get hurt. The pig didn't get hurt. The dog didn't get hurt. So it was a good time.
Yeah,
it was a good time.
Well, for those that are listening, if they haven't figured out the voice here, this is a pretty familiar voice if you're a regular podcast listener, but maybe somebody hasn't heard of you. So why don't you introduce yourself, Joey?
Well, I'm Joey Wright with I own Dixie Doggers with my son Nathan,
Yep.
And been doing this. We started the podcast stuff, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago now. Live here in Alabama. Originally born and raised in Arkansas in the Delta, right below Memphis, right there on the Mississippi River.
Yeah. Nice.
And stomped all the fields barefooted and chased coons and rabbit, squirrel, and deer with dogs all my life.
Very cool. I was going
That's
to.
about
Was
big and
curious
short of it there.
Curious how you got started running dogs.
With the hunt dogs being my grandfather, it's kind of a generational thing, like it is with a lot of people, but not with the hog dogs.
Okay.
And you would think living in the Delta, that would have been one of the main things. But my dad, my grandfather, and them, they didn't want anything to do with the wild hogs. They didn't want anything to do with them at all.
Why is that?
They would avoid them. I don't know. That still don't know to this day. Both of them have passed on, and never even inquired about it. I just know we never messed with them. Now, we had beagles, and we had several different kind of hounds for coon dogs and bobcat dogs. My grandfather, he ran some cats.
Okay.
Kind of a multi-purpose dog.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I was familiar with the Airedales. Pop and his brothers, they had some Airedales.
Okay.
As well.
Interesting.
Yeah. We ran some deer dogs. I guess till I was probably 18 or 19. That was something that we did a lot.
Yeah. And
then when I moved to Alabama, kind of got away from a lot of that because deer dogging is restricted in a lot of areas. They took it away for certain areas here, and they've since then reinstated some of it. But
gotcha.
But the hog hunting, I went to. I've been in the bulldog world for generations. It's a generational thing with my family. We showed dogs. We did weight pulls, different bench shows and stuff like that through the ADBA, and kind of got a big history with some of the bulldog stuff, and some of that's just better left out. But with the hog hunting, it was an outlet to utilize our bulldogs as, for what they need to do. They need a good outlet. Most terriers do. And all the dogs that I started with were some type of terrier.
Okay.
And I still run them. And I liked them. They were a little tougher dog, a little rougher dog. They with a whole lot of bay dog to them.
Oh yeah. If you listen to many terrier men, any dog that backs up and bays is a call to them.
Yes, that's it's a pretty tough world there. But those little dogs, man, they have grit and drive and heart like you wouldn't believe.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, there are some that it's not a big deal if they call them a mixer, which they'll bay some and they will grab as well and they'll draw. And some of that's tolerated. Like if you get one that will work the quarry underground, not necessarily just go in there and throw it, but maybe go in there, bay it some to draw and then grab it, pull it out a little bit, bay it a little bit. Self-preservation, I guess, would be the thing that I'd say would be one of the virtues on that style of dog. And then you got the other ones that they just go in there and take care of business.
Yeah. What made you transition from bulldogs to like the yogs?
I incorporated them together for a long time.
Okay.
And, and tried to work them together. And it worked out some. I was younger and I didn't have a lot of, we didn't have the social media like we do now.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a whole lot of, there was just a little bit of literature. I couldn't just call 15 different guys and say, hey, what about this? Or get on Facebook and there'll be 40, 50 different people can give you some type of answer. And some of it's going to be right. Some of it might not be.
Yeah.
But you can at least get some feedback. Back then, you had to know a dog man, and he had to know you, or he wasn't going to tell you much.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why it was I stuck with them. And we had a couple of yard accidents, and so I was like, okay, well, I need to get away from these because it's just there's too much drive going on there. And so I kept the Yog Terriers, and instead of running the smaller game style dogs, as far as the pit bulls, as far as running those, we slacked off running them, and we went with the Airedales.
Okay.
And then I went with the English Bull Terrier.
What does a Bull Terrier have that pit bull does not?
Absolutely nothing. And I know that sounds crazy, but a pit bull has it all. A pit bull has too much sometimes.
Okay. I just have seen, like, in the hog hunting world, there's kind of been this resurgence of people interested in the Bull Terriers. And I've just, like, to me, I don't understand it because I look at them and they're goofy Roman noses, and I'm just like, why do you like them things? I don't understand it.
Well, and that's, hey, fair enough. It's true. And that's something that there's still not enough literature out there on these things. There's not enough guys that, and I'm not going to say, I don't really classify myself as a dog man yet, by no means, but there's not enough guys like me that'll openly talk about it. For a long time, I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. But then I realized, like, we're going backwards. Like you said, you see these Bull Terriers with these huge Roman noses, and they're club-footed.
Yeah.
They're hawked. They're cow-hawked bad. Their conformation is terrible. Their athleticism is none.
Yeah.
So what happened? Used to, they were athletic. They didn't have that big old Roman nose. They had a straight face and a wedge head. Mm-hmm. Hard mouth, plenty of stamina, grit to go. I mean, and miles of it. So what I did is it took about 5 years to find my first one. And I mean 5 years of looking and testing dogs.
Yeah.
Then when I got my first one, I realized, okay, this is what I'm looking for. It had a better off switch.
Okay.
I don't recommend putting your catch dogs in the same box with all your other dogs, mm-hmm. To anyone. But I could put my bulls in. I could put 2 or 3 of them in the same box. And with my game dogs, you could for a little while.
Yeah.
But generally, they're going to start fighting and just, it could turn into a disaster if you're not careful.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted the Bull Terrier to do that. The Airedale, I liked them because of their size. Mm-hmm. That was what the Yog Terrier was lacking, as far as I was concerned, was the size. That's about the only thing that I could see where they lacked in.
Okay.
The Airedale was pretty close as far as, like, if you took the Yog Terrier and quadrupled the size of it, you would have a smaller Airedale. Similar, mm-hmm. Very similar. And so we started breeding all 3 of those breeds. I started reading about the German Hide Terrier.
Yep.
And I tried my my best to get in contact with some of the people in Germany and Lithuania. And I talked to a couple. I wound up getting one imported, or another guy had it imported, and I wound up with it.
Okay.
It just wasn't for me. It was still a little too small. Mm-hmm. So I looked at the paperwork and looked at how they were breeding everything, and I said, well, maybe I'll try this. Still use the same 3 breeds. And it took, I think I had 9 years altogether in that program to where I really got what I wanted. And that's when I had the litter of King and Shug. I had half a dozen of those dogs, and they were really good dogs. They were between 55 and 65 pounds, 20 inches tall, mm-hmm. and they were dead silent, and they could handle pretty much whatever you put them on. And it took all 3 breeds, and it took a long time to get what I wanted, but that was kind of my version of what the Hide Terrier is.
Yeah.
But now, but it's not a German Hide Terrier. it was just my version of what they were breeding.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be clear on that, because I've had a few people like, they're like, well, I know you were trying to, pass these off as German Hides. I said, no, never said they were German Hide Terriers. I was like, this is my version of the Hide Terrier.
Yeah.
It's no different than somebody breeding anything.
Yep.
If it's something that you want and you can't, it's not available, but you got the recipe, then hey, get to cooking.
Yeah. No, and I mean, like you said, it was 9 years. It wasn't like it was like just F1 crosses or anything that you're just like, oh, yep, Airedale Yogs, they're Hides. And it's like, no, 9 years of, all three breeds of testing and,
And that was right 9 full years. And it wasn't just me. Like, it all started, there was the group of guys I was hunting with. I don't know that it was ever an intentional thing to say, hey, we're going to breed up our version of the Hide Terrier. But we were making those crosses, and I happened to have the Bull Terrier. Well, those guys got out of everything. And so we already had some 50-50 crosses of Airedale and York Terrier. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, shoot, let me see how this works out.
Yeah.
And so we started making crosses. And I had to breed. You got to breed 4 times minimum. 6 times was really what it took to get what I wanted. 6 breedings to get to where I wanted. And when I say full 9 years, it was a full 9 years of just me, not including a couple of years. Aaron Schenkel, Clay Austin, Roger Wright, Dwayne Heatherly, Adam Brown, all those guys were involved at some point with anything that I've done in the hog hunting industry. At some point, I got something from those guys.
Yeah.
They taught me the ropes. They taught me the unwritten rules. They taught me how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And my hat's off to them. And I respect those guys and care for them very much. And they deserve all the credit for anything that I do. They might not want it because they probably think I'm crazy.
So you basically got what you wanted.
Yes.
And then you switched gears, right?
Yes. Yeah. Like a lunatic. But here, it was. I don't know of a lot of people that have running catch dogs that live to be 7, 8, 9, 10 years old that are used on every hunt.
Yeah.
I don't mean like pulled out of the box. Like, these were the main dogs. They're what we didn't have, like a strike dog and then send these to them.
Mm-hmm.
We did in the last few years that King and Charlie and them were alive. But at 9 years old, King was the first one that I had that I really want. That's what I wanted. And he was 9 years old when he met his demise.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only maybe 2 or 3 times that we ever even put a staple in him in all those years. He knew what to do. He knew how to do it. And he was good at it. Got caught up in a rally with a couple of big boar hogs, and he was caught. And another boar hog come in there, and they teamed up on him.
Yeah.
And it was a tough night. And so after that, I was defeated. I was like, man, I don't want to have to do all this again. It just broke my heart.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and all these hogs, man, they run so much. So you either got to shut them down really quick, hard and fast, or you got to run them. You got to pump the air out of them. And I realized that all these years, I'd had a few really good bay dogs, but I got them from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, I've done a lot of certain things with dogs, but I've never had cur dogs that I personally bred up a certain line that I wanted, or a line that I started. I wanted to do a line of dogs that worked for me and were successful.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at now. We're about 3 years into it.
Okay.
And I'm going to be honest, I got a litter of puppies right now. They're 6 months old, and they bay better than any dog I've got.
Nice.
Yeah. And Then we got another litter that's 5 months old, and they're right there with them. I mean, if they will just maintain that, the next step would be we have to evaluate how are they going to hunt.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're at with it. And then I had something else sneak up on me. Josh Neff, he's doing High Terrier USA.
Yeah.
He, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't. So anyway, he sent me a couple of dogs, and we're pushing them.
So back in the hide game.
Yeah, and the thing about it, like, I still have a couple of the old dogs that I've bred up, and they're different dog. And I'm not going to say, well, my dog's better than this. I'm not doing that. I like the way the ones I bred up, but I bred them specifically for me.
Yeah.
For years. I don't know the amount of time and hours that were put in. I have no idea. I don't know how much money it was, but I know it was every day for nearly 10 years.
Yeah.
To get to that point. And there was literally hundreds of dogs involved. Hundreds. Thousands of miles of driving and going picking up whole litters. And there were several times where the whole litter didn't ever even work out.
That's defeating.
It was tough, very tough. And so, when you do that, I'm like, I was proud of what I had.
Yeah.
But Josh has a fire, man. He's got that fire in him, and he's doing it the right way. He went to Germany and hunted with the parents of these dogs, with the breeders, and he's been going over there every year, and he evaluates those dogs, and then he has some brought in, and now he's started a breed program. Man, I got to respect that, and my hat's off to him. And so trying to help him with whatever I can help with, But we've got a couple right now. We got one named Whiskey, and he's doing really good. We've got he's going on 2 years old. And then I've got a puppy named Herman, and Herman's just now getting started.
Okay.
He's only just a few months old, but Herman he thinks he's 30 years old and ready to go. He just got to slow down a little bit. So.
Yeah. So now your cur dogs that you've had for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Are they a crossed up line of cur dogs? Are they straight Catahoula, straight yellow blackmouth curs? What are they?
Okay. So what I had in mind is I love the look of a blackmouth cur with a good black mask. I like the size, all of it. I wanted a yellow dog.
Mm-hmm.
Nate don't really care. He likes a colored up dog. So he's got a Catahoula, and I've got some blackmouth curs. Which it wasn't one of those deals where I just went and got a couple of blackmouth curs and was like, okay, here we go, we're starting. No, it was, I went through a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I wound up getting a litter from Russell Holiday. And they were a little on the rough side, but I like the structure. I like their build. I like their temperament. They were a little bit hot, but they settled down. And so I said, man, I like these dogs, but I don't want them quite that rough. And so I wound up getting a couple of other blackmouth curs, and I really like them. But then in the mix, we squirrel hunt a lot, and we've always had mountain curs and Kimmers.
Okay.
And I've said this on some of our shows several times, like, you always hear of a hog hunter. You ask them, like, what's the best dog you've seen? And I'm not saying every single time, but a lot of times somebody's going to say, well, it was a mountain cur or mountain cur cross or a Kimmer cur cross.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, that was one of the best hog dogs I've ever seen. And I heard that so many times. I was like, well, man, I've got what I need right here.
Yeah.
And true enough, they do really good. So I've seen a lot of Catahoulas that were yellow, they come out solid colors.
Yeah.
So got these Kimmer curs that are yellow. And then I got my blackmouth curs that are yellow. So I'm going to have yellow dogs. And if they're not yellow, they're probably brindle. So that don't mean that they're blackmouth cur. They don't mean that they're Kimmer. Don't mean they're Catahoula. They're yellow dogs.
Just cur dog.
Cur dog, buddy. I'll be honest with you. Whatever works the best is what we'll use.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But so far we have done Catahoula blackmouth cur cross twice. Both those litters are phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. That's the ones I was just talking about. Then we done a Kimmer cur cross to a half cat and half bird. Had a little bird dog in it, so I'm gonna try it. That was one of Rodney's dogs, and those pups did not make it. So we're still behind on that one. We're going to do a Kimmer cross.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to cross Louie into one of these pups whenever they get proven out, if they make it.
Yeah.
Right now it's looking really good. Either that, or I'll cross him back to one of the blackmouth curs, and then that should be our basis, our foundation to start with. And like right now we have a foundation. We've got enough dogs to do all the breedings that we want to do for a long time. We got some that are just a couple years old, 2 or 3 years old. None of them's over probably 4.
Oh, wow.
So all the dogs are prime time.
Yeah.
And so we can work with these for the next few years. And if we have to pick and choose, if we got to cull hard, we'll still be okay. We got enough stock to work with. Got rid of most of all my rough dogs, my run and catch dogs and stuff. I've let people have them or sold them, whichever way worked. And so now it's kind of odd walking out on the yard, and I've got less than say 25 dogs. That's odd for us because normally it's 50.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think when I first talked to you guys like a couple years ago, you're like, yeah, we got like 45, 50 dogs out in the yard.
That was all grown dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was doing my version of the hides, I had this yard, and then my brother-in-law, we had some on his, and then I had another guy that was raising Airedales for me. And between those 3, we would keep around 120.
Whew. Man.
You talking about a feed bill?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord have mercy. That's a lot of dog food.
But see, I think guys like Robert Kemmer and I have leopards, and so like Richard McDuffie, guys that basically started their own breed, 50, 60,
Mm-hmm.
heck, some of it's been, longer than that now ago.
Oh,
that's what they all did. They all had these giant yards of dogs, but that's how they got genetic diversity really quickly, is because they just had crazy amounts of dogs. Where now, like, people just don't keep that many dogs.
Oh, without a doubt. That was kind of one of the things I ran into about the hide terrier deal. Is people were like, well, you're breeding this way, and you're breeding this way, and you're doing this, you're doing that. I said, I'm doing exactly, what I want to do, the way I want to do it. At the time, there was really no literature on saying, okay, there's a standard this or standard that. But it's also the same thing. Like in 1973, those guys, there's 3 guys that started that breed.
Mm-hmm.
They bred for purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what's the difference in those guys doing it and then me and my guys doing it?
Nothing.
I'm not saying that they were better dog men than we are. And I'm not even saying I'm a dog man, I'm just saying that we put a lot of time, effort, and everything into it. We were very, very strict. 3 dogs out of 3 dogs in like 14, 15 years is all that left. And all 3 of them were killed in action. So there's none that's out in the public.
Yeah.
We were very, very strict on it because we didn't want it to get messed up or watered down. Like you were talking about Mr. Kimmer, that's what Robert did. He bred for specific purpose.
Yeah.
And so if Ben Sheets wants to breed his leopards a certain way, but he wants his dogs to be white, there's no difference in you doing that than Robert Kimmer or the next breeder doing it.
Yeah.
All it is like you said, those guys have been doing it for 50 or 60 years. At one time, they started.
Yeah.
At one time, they were only doing it for 6 months or a year or 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people lose that sight of the path that on that journey there that it takes you. The general public loses that sight, and they get so caught up in, well, that was 50 years ago. He did it better. There's guys out here right now that have way more knowledge. They have everything at the end of their fingertips on a phone that they can look up.
Exactly.
And science has been doing this stuff now for all these years. And true enough, you cannot replace an 80-year-old man that has been doing it for 70 years. You can't replace that.
No, but you can learn from him.
But exactly, you can learn from them and you can do certain things. But how many of those are left?
Yeah. You said
that's a problem.
Oh, for sure. And you said early on, before social media, it was a lot harder to get in to this, and you had to find somebody that was willing to teach you. And I think it's a double-edged sword, and I think while it certainly made the barrier to entry a lot harder, I think it made better, it cultivated a better crop of up-and-comers because they had mentors. Where today,
yes,
I mean, it's like I said, it's a catch-22. It's like, yeah, we want more guys getting into this because at the end of the day, we need to all stick together, and we need a better, more collective, stronger voice. So I'm all for getting more people involved. But anybody can go buy a dog, and all of a sudden be quote unquote a houndsman or dog man.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like kind of detrimental because sometimes they don't have to put in the work and earn that title. Like, all of a sudden they've got a dog and they can become insta famous, and it's like,
yep,
where that didn't happen before. You had to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and I even put myself in that category. Like, now granted, I had a mentor, still do. I just don't live close by him, but I mean, he's a phone call away. And, if I've got questions, and actually because of this, I've met quite a few other people that I like, have to bounce stuff off of. But, so I'm not saying that I think I'm kind of in between. Like, yes, I had a mentor, but then, yes, I have the internet at my fingertips. And so, but I don't know. It's just an interesting spot we are in versus, when you were getting involved.
Yes. And like when I guess one of the things I was trying to say on that part is there's so much information out there right now, but there's some of it that's not right.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, you're going to deal with that with anything. But now, say Von Plott was the same age as you and I in this today's society, and he had the same dogs, and the Plott breed did not exist, and he was starting it and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I think about things like that. I'm like, how would people take him now?
Yeah.
Then I look at it like this. I was like, okay, so now imagine that he had the World Wide Web when he was doing all this.
Yeah.
He would have been even more famous. It have been like just the craziest thing ever, because guess what made him more famous? The internet.
Yeah.
He was already a household name for hounds, but like once it gets to the point where people can read about it and it's free information.
Yep.
It gets passed around, and more people hear about it and they know about it. Whereas for years and years, yourself, you could go to the library and check out a book you know, we didn't have Google.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't just look up something and say, well, I wonder how they bred this dog or blah, blah, blah. Hey, you had to put in your time. And I agree with that part. There's a lot of guys that are taking shortcuts. And I get that, you know, like, I'll be honest with you. I was one of those guys. I was like, man, if I could take a shortcut, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
But I never do. For some reason, I'm a glutton for punishment. You know, it's like, well, if I take a shortcut, then I'm shortchanging myself. So I guess what I'm saying is it all falls back to the man or the woman doing it.
Yeah.
What's your reputation for yourself? What do you want people to see you as? And who are you? I mean, are you a prideful person? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, like, do you take pride in what you're doing?
Yeah.
You know, do you want to be the absolute best at it? And you don't have to go beat your chest and get on a stump and tell everybody you're good. If you're good, people will tell other people for you.
Yep. People notice. That's for sure.
But I wonder about that a lot of times. Like, you know, if some of those old guys could see some of the stuff that's happening today.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see their perspective on it. Yeah,
it would. And I think that's why, like, you know, we talk about Uncle Pat on our podcast a lot. He's been a staple in our stuff, and he's a handful. Man, he's a handful. And he talks in riddles. He's never going to just say, hey, man, feed that dog 32 grams of this, feed that dog this, and run it this much, and do that. He's never, ever going to tell you that. Mm-hmm. He will tell you this big, long story, and you're not going to get it at first. But I have noticed that guys that have been doing it a long time, we understand that story pretty quick.
Yeah.
Or guys that haven't been doing it, they're like, what in the world is he talking about? He's crazy. And then after a few years, they're like, oh, I got it now. You know, and so those kind of dog men, they're out there in the world today. And I'm glad that he's sharing a bunch of his stuff.
Yeah.
And there's certain ways to do it, but a lot of those guys were raised differently, and they don't know how to do this stuff. They don't know how to just be open about it.
Yeah.
That's a different generation.
Yep. No, back then, a lot of people didn't talk about anything. Conkeys Outdoors is proud to be a sponsor of Tree Talking Time. Family, hunting, tradition is the Conkeys motto. They understand the importance of passing down the tradition of hound hunting. They are a family-owned business that treats you like family. They also understand the importance of having the gear you need when you need it. Conkeys carries everything for your next hunt, and it ships to your door quick. They also offer great warranties on all tracking systems and financing options. Check them out at conkeys.com. You can also use the code TreeTalkingTime5 in all caps to save as well.
No, that's, you know, with the bulldogs, and it's just like with game fowl.
Yeah.
Used to, they would, you know, why would you give somebody your recipe to come back and beat you?
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't really say much about anything.
Yep.
You know, and so, and it seems like today, in today's society, if you're a person of your word and you have good character, somebody will just about give you, and I know they will, you know, I know there's somebody out there that will give you a true world-class dog, and it has all the right stuff to make one, and it's just up to you to do it, you know, to put it in a place for success.
Yep.
Whereas those years ago, you couldn't even buy one. They wouldn't want to give you one hardly, but you couldn't even buy them. Mm-hmm. It's because we're losing so many people.
Yep.
We're trying to recruit these people and bring them back in. It's like, yeah, come in here. Here's something good, and we're going to give you a shortcut.
Yep.
And a lot of them don't even recognize what's right in front of their face.
Heck, especially kids, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know numerous people that, you know, you're trying to get a kid involved, they'll bend over backwards to try and do whatever they can to get kids involved. And I'm all for it. But, you know, it's like you said, sometimes Comes at a price. So not always for the best.
Yep. Yeah, I had one a few weeks ago. I had that litter of pups off Junior, and I said I'm not getting rid of any of these. I'm keeping all these. And I'm like, I said once they get about a year and a half old,
Mm-hmm.
I'll place a couple of them. And what I normally do is I give the best ones out. If usually I like the consistency deal.
Yeah.
So most of the time, all ours are pretty even. But there's always, it seems like, one or two that do just a little better. So that's the ones I'm going to send you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to send you the worst dogs. But anyway, there's this young guy. He came down, and we've known him for a while. And Nate told me, he said, boy, he really wants one of them brindle pups. I said, I don't want to get rid of him. And man, I thought about that for like 2 days while they were here hunting. And I just felt bad about it. And I was like, man, I shouldn't be like that. I said, you know what? I give him the one I picked for myself. And so I guess it was right before the Tulsa standard hunt with the boars and broads.
Mm-hmm.
He called another guy and told him, he said, hey, my dad's not going to let me keep this pup. He said it barks too much. He said, okay. He said, well, I'll come get it. So he called me. He's like, hey, he can't keep the puppy. And I was like, look, just bring it with you to the weigh-in. I'll bring it back home. No big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a problem.
Yep.
Well, he didn't bring it to the weigh-in. So I asked the other guy about it. And Jacob told me, he said, well, no. He said he didn't bring it. They were hunting. They'd been hunting for several days. I said, well, look, just get the puppy. I said, you keep him. And I said, next time I come up or you come down, I said, you can bring him to me. I said, or if you like him enough, I said, just keep him and hunt him,
Yeah.
So he goes over there, or he calls the boy. He's like, hey, I'm on my way to go get the pup. He said, that puppy's not here. He said, what do you mean? He said, he's not here. I had to get rid of him. He said, so what are you saying? He said, you sell him? He said, no. He said, you give him away? He said, no. He said, well, man, we need to, he said, I need to get that puppy and get it back to Joey now. And so, make a long story short, the puppy wasn't there and he didn't get the puppy back.
Mm.
So it's like, man, if that youngin only knew what he had in his hands.
Yeah.
And now it's not like he's 12 years old, he's 18 years old, so if it was a 12-year-old kid, it'd be a little different, but, and even at that rate, it was just like, it's disheartening
mm-hmm.
because like it beats you down and you kind of lose a little bit of faith in the overall part of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're gonna have that. It's going to happen sooner or later.
Unfortunately.
Yep. And I don't know that you can do anything. I'm not going to call him out. I'm not going to run his name down or none of that. But I'm not going to send him any more dogs.
Yeah.
I'm going to distance myself away from it, mm-hmm. at least for a while, until he grows up.
Yeah.
He has to. He's got a little growing up to do.
For sure. Sorry to hear that, man. That's rough. That's one of the worst parts about raising dogs in general is getting them in the right hands. Whether you sell them, give them away, whatever. Just once they're out of your hands, you don't have control, and that's one of the worst parts about it.
That's hard. To me, that's one of the hardest things is because you take like some of these guys. Okay, like Robert Kimmer, we'll use him because he's still alive. He's still breeding dogs, and he has bred thousands of dogs and pups. I'm sure when he first started, he wasn't like, just anybody come up here and buy one.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it wasn't like that. But over the years, if you're going to do that, if you're going to sell pups, I think you have to become kind of numb to it. And be like, okay, here you go. That's if you're going to sell a bunch of them.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm only breeding one litter every 2 years, chances are I'm not selling anything. I might place one or two with some friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but then like I said, there's guys that they breed a lot, and they sell a lot, and I couldn't do what they're doing.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. So,
mm-hmm.
I want to kind of switch gears here. How did Dixie Doggers come about? Like, so you've been hunting dogs for a long time. We've kind of discussed how you got into all this and running hog dogs, but how did Dixie Doggers start? Like the podcast, you guys had a store there for a little while. You guys got a YouTube channel. You know, you and Nate are pretty busy. So where did all this come from?
Man, I'll be honest with you, before anybody knew who we really were, I was 10 times busier. And I quit back in like 2010, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't quit hunting, but I quit the promotion part, you know. And because it was just consuming us. It was consuming me. Back then it was just me. And then my brother-in-law, he got in, he started hunting with me a lot. And you know, it's one of those deals. Like we had a bid on a TV show. They was coming filming. It was during the same time like American Hoggers was going on.
Yep.
But as far as like Dixie Doggers, the way it started is I was hunting. I had been hunting for, at the time, probably a year or something like that. And I got me a couple of dogs that I wanted, the little Jags, little Yog Terriers. And having the Bulldogs already, some of those, and then a squirrel dog or two, I was like, well, I got these kennels, and here in Alabama, like at that time, we didn't have leash laws or none of that back then in the county. You could do whatever you wanted, but we were talking about, you know, doing some guided hunts and things like that. So I wanted to get my kennels registered.
Okay.
And it's the name, the bloodline of my Yog Terriers was Dixieland.
Mm-hmm.
Scott All started that bloodline. And so I couldn't use Dixieland.
Yeah.
And so I was writing down on my notebook. I wrote Dixieland, and I was just, you know, brainstorming. I wrote dogs and doggering and all that. And I was like, they was on top of each other. I said, well, Dixie Doggers. I said, we'll go with that. And that'll be the kennel name. And it went, I think that was in like 2008, maybe somewhere in there.
Okay.
And so went from that to, I was like, well, I'll get them registered there or registered under that. And it stayed like just my kennel name for a long time. And I'd bred a few of the Yog Terriers, and, you know, I send them out to people. And then we started going to the terrier trials, started competing a lot. And when we would go up there and sign our dogs up, well, it would be, you know, Joey and then my brother-in-law, Joe. Then Nate was young, you know, they have all these names. And then I was judging and doing other things. So it was like, well, Nate would have to run my dogs, and then he'd get up there, and his name wasn't the same one on the slip, blah, blah, blah. So we just put Dixie Doggers. And that's where it started.
Okay.
You know, that's how that part started, the name. And it just became a local thing, and we started doing some guided hunts, started taking people hunts, started managing some properties, trapping hogs, running dogs. Then, I don't know, the whole podcast deal, I kept getting a lot of people, a lot of young guys would message me, email me, call, and I would take as much time as I could and try to answer all these every night.
Mm-hmm.
And the first night that I got 100 different text messages,
Oof.
and 100. I had 104. It was on Facebook Messenger, my regular text message, it was people's like, "Hey, Mr. Joey, I know you don't know me, but I got your number from so and so, or I got your number offline, or whatever." And they were just asking general dog questions.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, I thought they were joking. I was like, "This has got to be a joke." Like everybody knows this,
Yeah.
but they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would be up at 2:00 in the morning talking to some of these kids. And I mean, when I say kids, I'm talking, 15 years old, 18, 20. That's still young. They're young men, but just they're kiddos to me.
Oh yeah.
So I was trying to help them, and Nate told me, I was like, "How can I do this?" He was like, "We could do a podcast," and he was still in college and working full time. And and I had 2 or 3 businesses going. I've always got something going on, and so I was like, "Okay, that's fine." And it was a little weird at first because as much as I talk now, believe it or not, I didn't really talk that much back then. I didn't talk to people about dogs. I was one of those old codgers that I didn't want to I didn't want to put you on no game.
Yeah.
I was like, this is my little secrets. And I realized that I was becoming somebody that I shouldn't. I wasn't practicing what I was preaching.
Yeah. And
so, I was like, well, we'll reach out and we'll try to spread the word all we can. And they come up with the podcast deal. And if they took our YouTube channel down, we had the YouTube channel. YouTube channel, I had the first one. God Almighty, when YouTube first came out, and my buddies, they had some videos of some of the dogs, and they were phenomenal videos. I wish we had them now, but of course they've all been taken down and lost and all that. They were some of them were a little rough,
yeah.
But like it wasn't nothing that was too bad. But the whole YouTube thing was, we didn't do it for money.
Yeah.
And we still don't do it for money because, it's one of those deals where you can't really post what everybody wants to see.
Yeah.
And so, we're just now starting to climb up. We've been a slow and steady pace.
Yep.
I know some guys that, they come out of the fence like a bucket bull. I mean, boars and broads. When those guys come out of the hole, buddy, they were boom.
Yeah.
1 million people watching them. And I do all the time, and they're some of my best buddies. And they have remained strong. But you know yourself, most of the time when that happens, you flame out.
Exactly.
And I told Nate, I said, I would rather have, get 100 subscribers every year and just do it forever.
Yep.
Instead of, building up and then blowing up.
Yep.
And the reason I even bring that up is because, like I was talking about before, like with the TV shows, we own the Alabama Houndsman Trade Day circuit. Like I would come set up in your town and put on a trade day.
Okay.
And there would be hundreds, thousands of people show up, and we would have, magazines there, TV channels there. We did that stuff for a couple of years, and it got so big so fast it just scared me. I didn't know what to do because it was pretty much just me.
Yeah,
that was running the stuff. I was like, now I'm kind of the face of it, but Nate does all the behind the scenes stuff. Without him, I ain't doing nothing.
What's funny is I talked to Nate. I've talked to Nate quite a bit, kind of on the behind the scenes stuff, and me and him talk back and forth about like the back end stuff a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of I've known that for a while, that you're the face, but he's the back end guy, because like I said, we've talked quite a bit about YouTube and podcasts and how to get things uploaded and monetized and all that kind of stuff.
That's right. And when all this really first started coming up and get going, like with the store, he was still in college.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear these guys out there, they talk about, well, so and so, all that, he's messing with, that's daddy's money, that's this and that's that. Man, I got hurt quite a few years ago, and I got hurt bad physically, and I couldn't even hardly take care of my dogs. And Nate was in high school. He took care of them, no problem. And I was going to get rid of them. I was like, I'll just quit. I'm not going to be able to do it. He was like, no. And my middle son was the same way. He said, I'll help. So they all pitched in and helped, but Nate did the bulk of everything. And then even when he was in college, he was going to Mississippi State, Starkville, which is 2.5 hours from here.
Yeah.
He would go. He went to class, like, I believe his schedule was Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday when he first started. And then he would drive home Thursday, and he would work Thursday, Friday, and Saturday on the job site. Then he would take care of the dogs as well, maintain honor roll status on his GPA.
Yeah. Wound
up with 3 different degrees and all this stuff. And the whole time now, like I said, he's taking care of all this stuff. So I was like, what can I do to try to, I'm not going to say repay him, because that's not what it is. It's like, I want to see him succeed. He worked really hard.
Yeah.
And so we talked about doing a supply store. I was like, okay, look, you need to learn some stuff about business. Here's how much money we got. Do what you can do with it.
Good deal.
Yeah, and I mean, like, every bit of it, like, he started it, it's in his name. Well, it's Dixie Doggers, but like, everything was, he done all of it. And I was the face of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still like that, even with this. There's a lot that was put on him, but he wanted it.
Yeah.
There was times where I told him, I was like, man, you're doing a lot. There's times where we could have already been way ahead of what we are now. But then it would have been just that much harder on him.
Yeah.
And myself. And we just stayed at this pace. And like I said, working full time, having the store, doing the podcast. And we went from doing 1 episode a month or every few weeks to 2 or 3 a week every week.
Yeah.
We went from 0 to 100. Me and you talked about that, and it was like, I don't know how y'all gonna do it. I was like, I won't either.
Yep.
And then guided hunts, managing properties, and then the dogs. It's literally 100 hours a week all the time.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it all. That's for sure.
Well, we're getting to the point now, being where, like, Nate just takes care of this stuff. I still contract. And so I've got stuff that's going on over here making my income.
Yeah.
And then we don't make much off of any of the stuff that we have going on, but we're starting to accumulate a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not enough to be like, oh man, we can quit work and just kick back and live off of the YouTube channel. No. No.
I'm right there with you. I get it. People are like, oh, you do that
know what it
professionally?
is.
And I'm like, heck no, I don't do that professionally. It's a hobby that kind of sort of makes me something.
Yeah.
After you spend all kinds of money up front to put into it. Yeah, and countless hours. Yeah, I've made some money back. I mean, am I still in the clear if I calculated it all out? Heck no. But
no, nowhere near it.
It pays me something.
We got our first check. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying it pays something, but not a lot.
Yeah. We got our first check from YouTube the other day. I guess it was a check. I don't know. Nate got it, and he told me. He said, I think it was enough to pay for the bus route and all the podcasts, all the dues that we have to pay, all the fees, the monthly fees. I think, it's a couple $100.
Yeah.
That's what it covered. And let me tell you something. I am so thankful for that. Literally, because it's like, it's one of those things, like you said, this is a hobby that I enjoy doing.
Yep.
and we've got a lot tied up in it. I mean, we started out with a different setup with mics that weren't that great, and after a little while, we moved on up a little bit.
Yep.
But it wasn't because we were making money, from it. And we've got a few advertisements now, and it's to the point where now it kind of pays for itself, I guess you'd say. That's about where we're at. It's like you're not making any money.
Yeah.
But it's also where our name is. We're known well enough now that we get calls for, okay, I need you guys. Can y'all come trap this property for me?
There you go.
And then you get guys that call and say, hey, can we go hunt? How much for a guided hunt? And my problem is I don't ever want to charge anybody. And like yesterday, I had a guy and I told him, I said, oh man, I ain't worried about that. Go on ahead, And then he's over there in the truck and he's putting some money in above the visor. I'm like, dude, we're going to go hunting anyway. He's like, yeah, but you don't understand. Because we carried him, his son, his brother, and his dad.
Yeah.
And we hunted hard. I mean, for 2 days straight, all day. And we had a great time.
That's awesome.
But like I said, I hunted right here by the house. Wasn't no big deal to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I know a lot of guys that they charge to take people hunting, and I'm fine with that because that's what they do.
Yeah.
That's their profession.
The only hog hunt I've ever been on was a guided hunt.
And, I think as bad as I ain't going to say as bad as it is, but I guess it's having to come to my own reality. But that's who we are too now. It's like, this is what we do. That's all I do.
Yeah.
As far as like my regular work, I know this is probably going to sound really bad, but I probably only work there myself 30 hours a week.
Well,
but I'm at a point where I don't have to,
Yeah.
And I've been like that, not because of this, but I've been because I've done that for 30 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got guys I can just say, hey, y'all go over there and need y'all to do this. No problem. I don't have to be there. So now I can hunt more.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point to where I can train dogs more. And so if I can produce better dogs and I can take a couple of dogs here and there and train for other people, and if we can do a guided hunt here and there, manage a couple of properties, get a few advertisements, it might actually get to the point where we can be like, okay, we got paid this month or something.
Exactly.
But I would not want to see what the hourly rate would be.
Yes. It's not going to be great, but at the same point,
Lord knows.
You're doing what you love, so.
How do you feel about that, Ben? With the old adage of saying, "Oh, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life."
Oh, it's still work. It's work.
Amen.
Do I enjoy it? Yes.
Yes.
But it's still work.
Mm-hmm.
And there's days that it's a grind and that it's I have to make myself, So it's not all sunshine and roses. This is a lot of fun. I love talking to people, but there's a lot of nights I'm up till midnight editing a podcast, uploading it, so it comes out on time. There's a lot of time that here in the last few months we've been, now granted, and I even have help with the video side of things. I've got a friend that's helping me with some of the video stuff, and if I had to do all of it alone, I would not even be as far along as I am. But he, it still takes me going over there and saying, this is how it needs to come together. Here's what happened. Now he can make it look super easy and quick and speeds the whole thing up a whole lot, but it still takes a lot of time for both of us,
Yeah, that's the part that falls on Nate a lot, is because I'm technologically illiterate on a lot of stuff. Like I got a Snapchat today, bud. Like they were like Case Frieda and them. He told Nate, he's like, this is so weird. Your dad's on Snapchat.
I don't even have a
I mean,
Snapchat, so.
Well, everybody kept sending me stuff, and I was like, well, I don't even know how to work this stuff. Now, I have started posting more myself. For a long time, it was Nate. Nate posted a lot of stuff, but after getting the channel suspended on YouTube, and then after violating community guidelines 40-something times straight, I learned how to post some videos and what not to say and how to say stuff politically correct.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff you can't say right now that I used to say when I was, in 1989.
Yeah.
I can't call people certain names, and you shouldn't do that either. Even if that's what they really are.
YouTube's making you a better person.
Oh, without a doubt. And so Nate set it up. He was like, look, he said, you can post the shorts. That or upload it. So I can upload the shorts. And then I uploaded, Instagram is kind of what I do. I like Instagram.
Yeah.
So hang out on Instagram more than anything. I mess with TikTok a little bit. We've got 2 different channels there. And then the Patreon account. Now that's what we started, and I really enjoy it because it's a more personal deal.
Yeah.
I let people in our lives, our everyday life. Like, not shy, of course. I know it's hard to believe, but like with Nate's wedding, I put pictures up and stories on what all was happening at the wedding, my grandkids, and I know some people don't care nothing about that, but then also at the same time, I've got all these dogs and different breeds that I have and that I've had over the years.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how blessed I was in that, but I talked to a lot of people and they're like, hey man, what about a Saluki? I'm like, yeah, they're pretty good. And then they'll ask me about a greyhound. I'm like, that's all right. Then a wolfhound or a draught or English pointer or a short hair pointer or a Vizsla or a wide hair Vizsla. I can go on and on and on and on. And there's been times where I've had 20 different breeds at one time.
Jeez.
So, like I've been extremely blessed to be able to do this. And I don't know why people have done it over the years, but they'll call me and they were like, hey man, I want to send you a dog. And I want you to evaluate the dog. I want you to hunt it or treat it like it's yours. And then tell me if this is any good.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And so I've just been really blessed with that. Especially some of the caliber of the dogs that I've got over the years. There's some I wouldn't even put a price on because like they were just really that good, outstanding dogs. And those guys, they're like, hey, you do whatever you want to. You can breed to it. You can do this. You can do that. And I'm like, no, man, I'm not doing it. And I think that might be one of the reasons why I get those calls I try to keep that reputation.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with them. Sometimes I'm too honest about it. I guess you'd say I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I'm very blunt.
Yeah.
And I've had them call and they were like, what'd you think about so-and-so? I was like, he's no longer here.
Yep.
He moved away.
Exactly.
And, and that's just how it is. Cause that's the way it is. If you're going to produce the best stuff you can.
Yep. No, and I think that's something that's lacking in the modern day, hound and dog and working dog community is just keeping the best and not settling and calling out the junk.
Saying that. Yes. I was going to say, you just have to say it the way. Now, how do you feel about like you said, the best of the best? There's a lot of people, they think they have the best.
Mm-hmm.
We had a little discussion about, I think it was Lee Robinson I was talking with, about making excuses or making allowances.
Yeah.
On a dog.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? Like, say, if you got a dog that just say this dog won't load up in the truck, but when he unloads, that son of a gun is going to put meat on the table. Now, you can make an excuse of why he won't load up, or you can just make an allowance and say, well, he just don't like to load up, but he does this so well where the good outweighs the bad.
Yeah.
You know, have you ever had to deal with dogs like that?
Yeah, I got one right now.
Really?
I have to make allowances that he has a horrible owner that doesn't hunt him, and then when I take him out and he frustrates me because he does dumb things, and it's like, well, you've been out less this year than you probably ever have in your entire life, and you're making dumb mistakes. But whose fault is that? Is that really your fault?
Yeah.
Or is it my fault?
I got you.
It's probably somewhere in between. There's probably some excuses, but there's some allowances too.
Yeah. And you know, there's a lot of dogs, and just over the years, I guess just kind of paying attention to everybody. But like take coon dogs versus squirrel dogs. A good coon dog, say a good competition coon dog. You need to hunt that son of a gun.
Oh yeah.
You need to push that dog. He needs to hunt 5-6 nights a week.
Yep.
All right. A good pleasure coon dog. You still need to hunt that son of a gun. You need to hunt him several nights a week to keep him on top of his game.
Yeah.
Now, squirrel dogs. Some squirrel dogs don't get hunted all year, and then when season comes in, those guys, like you said, they take them out right then, and it's rough for the first few hunts. And then after that, they get tuned up, and they are ready to roll. So with that right there, a lot of times I'm like, why? Why does that coon dog? Is it because it's just a hound? But I know guys who have cur dogs that have to do the same thing because they're coon dogs. You see what I'm saying? You got to hunt them a lot more like deer dogs. People who have deer dogs generally, they don't run them all summer long.
Yeah, most places they can't.
But yeah, exactly. Like here, I don't know hardly anybody that's going to run a deer dog during the summer. But man, when deer season gets here, they put them on the ground and them dudes are rolling like they don't forget. It just stuff like that's what kind of fuels me to keep doing this. I want to be able to understand which dog does what breed does this. And I'll be honest with you, I'm probably never going to get it. I'm probably never going to get it. But that's what I do. That's what keeps me going.
Yep.
There's a young guy named Kyler hunts with us. He's got an old blue tick dog, and that dog was a yard dog for two and a half years. And Kyler started hunting. He brought him, and that son of a gun. Now, a good dog, when he jumps, he barks, and while he's running, he'll open. But when it's a chop bark, you know.
Okay.
Well, he kept hunting one night, and he was in this little thicket, and that son of a gun was in there. He was kind of whining a little bit, and you could tell he was just beating the bushes, just beating them, but he wasn't going anywhere. I told Kyler, I was like, he's trying to cold trail, trying to pick that up. He said, you think so? I said, I think here in just a few minutes, I said, he's going to throw out a big old ball locate. And that young man looked at me and just laughed. He's like, he's not going to do that. He said, I've had that dog for 2.5, 3 years. He said, and he ain't never, ever made any kind of a ball. And within 30 seconds, that son of a gun let out the prettiest big ball mouth you ever heard in your life. And that youngin looked at me. He said, when he looked at me, I said, which dog was that? And he just put his head down, you know. and I said, and I really did. I didn't know that was Tito. And he said, yeah. He said, how did you know that? I said, I don't know. I said, I think it's because I've just done it a lot. It's like I'm not reading the dog's mind by no means. It's the body language. Yeah. It's the way the dog's acting. I said, I guess I just had better odds on my side. Odds were in my favor because he's a hound dog.
Oh yeah.
And he's trying to figure it out. And I said, I just figured he was going to ball. And that's the thing right there that it just keeps me going. I feel like I've just started hunting. When you get those young guys that only been hunting for about 6 months, and all they do is think about it, they live it every day. They'll miss work to go hunting.
Yeah.
They subscribe to every magazine. They watch every TV show, every series, listen to every podcast, every dog hunting song. I still do that.
Yeah.
After all these years. Oh, there's something wrong with you.
There's nothing wrong with you.
I don't know, man. I hope there's some younger guys out there that keep it like that,
Yep.
Because I know too many people that have, they kind of lose that fire.
Oh yeah.
They sell out of their dogs, and hey, some of them have to. It's a legitimate reason they have to. But I'm one of those. I just make certain allowances, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to allow myself to have these dogs.
Yep.
And it comes at a cost. There's always a cost.
For sure. Whether that's
Yeah.
time away from family, that's time,
Yes.
money and dog food and vet bills, and
Yes.
where you got to make sure you live where you can have 40 head of dogs.
That's exactly right. And me and my wife have talked about this before. I'm a simple guy, just old country boy. Got a few acres of land. I got a little house. Anybody that's been here, they'll tell you I've got junk all in my yard. I got kennels, chain spots. I've got a pig pen. You can go out in the backyard, and if you want to go out there and shoot your bow or shoot a gun or whatever, you can do whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I live simple like that, so I can do that. Yep. I can't have a big old giant house in a subdivision with a pool and 6-car garage and drive a Lamborghini and do this too.
Yeah.
So I have to. I had to make an allowance and say, okay, this is what I can do, but I have to have certain things and keep it a certain way in order to be able to maintain the other part.
Exactly.
And thank God I've got a wife like I do, and a family like my kids and stuff. They know how it is, and I don't think none of them really have. They're not going to try to beat me out of any of my dogs. I can tell you that. Nate's the only one that really messes with the dogs.
Well, it's good. At least you got somebody, some help.
Yeah. Which honestly, I just help him. He does most of it. All this stuff is his, really.
Good deal.
It keeps it interesting.
Yeah. Well, we've been on here for a little while. I just really appreciate you taking the time on talking to me tonight. And if you got anything else,
well, there's only just a couple of things I want to say.
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap it up. Is the main thing is for people who are just starting to hunt, for people who have hunted all their lives, whether it's 1 year or 100 years, don't be selfish. Don't be selfish. Treat everybody with respect to the best of your ability. Some people demand it. Some people need it. Some people don't want it. Some people don't deserve it. But respect yourself most of all. Have self-respect. Don't stoop to someone else's level. And all the arguing and the hatefulness and all that stuff. I know everybody preaches that and all that, and I'm going to continue to preach it.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a dog man out there a dog man or woman that's trying to help a young person that's getting started, younger person, do not get in a hurry and overstep your bounds. That's the biggest issue that we have. That's the biggest issue. And I don't mean like age-wise, just young and hunting. The next thing would be, God loves you, and I do too. That does it for me.
Well, I really appreciate it, Joey.
Hey, no problem. We appreciate you. Thanks for all the stuff that you've done to help us.
Yeah, anybody that's listening, if you haven't checked out Dixie Doggers, I will be honest, right now, you're probably my go-to podcasts. Like, I listen to a lot of different podcasts, but as far as consistently, I would say you're probably one of the top ones I listen to pretty consistently. So definitely check out
That
Dixie
means a
Doggers.
lot. We appreciate y'all, man. We really do. We appreciate all y'all listeners. Y'all make sure that y'all better make sure you subscribe and follow and like and do all that stuff for Tree Talking and Ben Sheets and for Dixie Doggers too.
Exactly. So.
Because we're all on the same team, guys. We gotta just keep it going. All right, Ben, man, we appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you very much, Joey.
All right, see you, buddy.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep them talking in the timber.